This conference will now be recorded.
What is the last class, guys?
Modules, sir.
Models and packages, right? So today we are going to talk about the new concept, which is OOPS concepts. From Python programming language, if I complete the OOPS concept, which means that we have done our Python programming language. Okay. Nyukta, you just come from online. So let's open your Unconto Navigator. So if I go with this particular one, then launch the Jupyter Notebook. Go to this particular desktop and yes, 107. So let's go for creating the new Python file, and the name of the Python file is Python oops. Yeah. So let's go for talk about object oriented programming language. What is exactly the oops? Oops means object oriented programming language, right? So what exactly the object oriented programming language? Okay, what exactly object oriented programming language? Tell me. Guys, what exactly the object oriented programming language? So basically, if any programming language is following some kind of features, which is something like polymorphism, okay, data hiding, data encapsulation, data hiding, and data encapsulation, data encapsulation, polymorphism, data hiding, data encapsulation, uh, uh, inheritance, okay. So if any programming language which is following some kind of feature, something like polymorphism, data hiding, data encapsulation, inheritance, okay, and yeah. So that kind of programming languages we are calling it saying object programming language, okay. But don't worry about this kind of features. I can explain you this kind of features one after one, okay. So my first thing is that when we talk about when if you want to follow this kind of features, that particular programming language, it should have the two things, and a class and object, okay, class and object. So if and only if a programming language having the class and object, then only, okay, then only that particular programming language is following clear my mind. Okay, so let's go for understanding the what exactly the class. So basically class means which is the logical entity. Okay, what it is? Class is a logical entity. So which means, so we just need to build logic inside the class. How you can build with the help of the class keyword and followed by the class name. You can give any name as a class, then okay, and class followed by the class name and colon symbol, and you just write some kind of attributes inside of the class. Okay, so attributes means the variables or functions if you're defining inside of the class that we're calling its attributes. Attributes means it's a functions and the variables if you're defining inside of the class that we are calling its attributes. Is it clear? So you can able to go for creating the logical entity with the help of the class keyword and followed by the class name, and inside of it we can able write the logical entity. Okay, this is the way you can able to designing the class. Just note this thing. Guys, is it completed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, once we creating the once if you create the class, with help of the class, you can able to create the multiple objects. So object one you can create. Object one we can create. It's very simple. How you are calling the functions in the same way, you can call the class and you can assign to the one variable. So this is the way you can create only one object. If you want to create the multiple objects in the same way, you can give the different name and you can call the one more same class. One more time same class. Second time you're creating the second object. If you want to create the one more object, then simply you can able to go for call the one more time the same class and you can assign to the different variable. That variable we are calling it's a object. Okay, so object means it's a very simple thing. It's a physical entity. So why we are calling physical entity is a very simple thing. So class is it's no memory. It does not require any memory. So that's the reason we are calling it same. Radhakrishna, are you recording this one? Okay. So
Yes, sir, it can
class
be.
is if you want to defining the class, if you want to define the class, you don't need memory. You don't need extra space. So that's the reason it's a logical entity. But when you're creating the object with that particular class, which is create assigning some memory location, so that's the reason objects are the physical entity for the logical class. Physical entity for logical class. So for the logical classes, we can use some kind of physical space. So that's the reason we're calling it say objects are the physical entities. Classes are the logical entities. Okay, objects are the physical entity, classes are the logical entity. Here the objects which is having some memory, but classes it does not require the memory. So that's a pretty simple thing. That's exactly the difference class and objects. So with the help of the class only you can create the multiple objects. Just note this information. Done. So let's go for small examples to creating some classes. So here we have a class and followed by the some student. Student is my class name. Okay, if you want to give this parenthesis, it's up to your choice. Every student he might have the name. So default you can defining the none, and every student is having the ID. So default you can specify as the none. Okay. So here name and ID are the attributes of the student class, but it doesn't. It is not some specific person, which is not a some specific person, right? So that's the reason. So it's a logical entity. Okay. So now when you are going to creating the student one is my object. So if you want to creating the student one is a student one object, you have to call the student class. Okay. So here student one is the object of the student. So student two objects, we are going to be creating the student two objects. So with the help of the same class. So this is the way you can able to go for creating the multiple objects with the same class. So as of now, this is fine. As of now, this is fine. Here we are creating the student class, and inside of the student class, you created the two attributes. The attributes of the student is name and ID, and here you are creating the three student objects: student one, student two, std3. Okay. So this is the way you can creating the class and you are creating the objects. After that one, I can explain you how we can able to access that particular class attributes with help of the objects. So this thing I can explain you once if you done this one. Note this one. Guys, is it completed?
Yes.
Okay. So here I want to access this name and I want to access this ID. That means these two are the class attributes, right? These two class attributes, I would like to go for access these objects. So if you want to do this thing, make sure that object is followed by the class attribute. Okay, you are defining the student one details. So when we are creating the student one details, so student one object and the class attribute. So this is the way only you can able to defining the or you can able to assign the some data to the class attributes with the help of the objects. So for example, Prasad. Student name is Prasad. Okay, and I just want to be give the ID for this particular student, and so for example the ID is so 123. Okay, S23. So this is the way you can assigning the data to the class attributes with help of the objects. So this is the same way we can do for the student 2 objects. So for student 2 also you can use the same thing, but every object which is having its own separate space. So that's the reason. So here the data can be differed. The data can be differ. So for example, Stravani S24. So same way we can able to go for the student 3 details also you can specify. For example, Srinu is my student 3 and ID is it's a S25. So this is the way you can able to go for defining the data, you can able to go for defining the class attributes data with help of the objects. Okay, note this example also. Okay. So once if you're defining the data in such a way, if you want to go for accessing the data outside of the class, same thing will do that. Okay, we'll go for printing the student one details. So student one dot name. Meanwhile, if you want to display the student one ID number, student one dot and class attributes. So this is the way you're going to be defining, you're going to be displaying the or accessing the student one information. Meanwhile, we'll do for student two objects. We'll do for student three. So this is the way. Okay. See here the
Sir,
issue is here. You're not updating the data. You're not updating the data so that we are you miss some information. Okay. Yes. Now you can able to go for execute the same program. See guys, we are created only one class, but with help of the one class, you can create the multiple objects. So that's what I would like to explain you here. Just note this example. Is it completed? Is it completed? Same things. Same things. I would like to go for creating the methods. With help of the methods, I just want to be assigning the data, as well as I would like to go for access the data with help of the functions. So if you want to go for creating the functions inside of the class, that we are calling it a methods. Okay, def followed by the uh, input or data, def followed by the um, sign assigning the okay. So assigning is my function. So I would like to go for creating. I would like to go for creating the okay. I just want to take the data from the keyboard. Okay, and but this is my class variable. This is my class variable. But every time if you want to access the class variables inside of the objects or methods, make sure that one variable is common thing, self, and the first variable, the first argument is self followed by the this class attribute, and here we can take the data from the keyboard, enter name. Meanwhile, you can able to go for id input of enter id. Okay, so this is the way you can access the data from the keyboard. So, sorry, you're assigning the data from the keyboard. Now I just want to access the what you're assigning for this student 1 and student 2 and student 3. Okay, same thing I would like to go for access. So here access is my function, and here also I can use the self. Self is common argument, and here I would like to go for display the self dot name. So every time this information, if you want access outside of the methods, so first argument is mandatory self dot. Every time you should use the self dot. Okay. Here you created the three objects. Here you created the three objects. With help of this three objects, if you want to call this particular method, then simply you can call the student1 dot assigning method. Okay. Yes. Same way, student2 dot assigning method. Okay. Student3 dot assigning method. Okay. Now if you would like to go for calling the access method from the student1, if I call the student1 dot access, then what could be the result? We'll see now. Okay, student2 dot access, student3 dot access. Okay, now we can execute, and here we can assigning the data. Okay, yes, 35. And for the second student, you're calling this object2 dot assigning function, right? For example, Prasad is my second student, and yes, 45 is my student ID. And for example, Prashant is my third student. Yes, 67 student ID. See, previous one and this one could be the same result, but previously outside of the class you are accessing and you are assigning. But now inside of the class only we are accessing and you are assigning. But with help of the methods we did it. Okay. So can you go for execute this same program? Guys, if you're done, please let me know. See, now we have some kind of special methods are there. So special methods means, so you don't need to call those particular methods. Automatically, those methods will execute. Okay, let's do these things. So this assigning method only, instead of creating the assigning method, I'm creating one method. The name of the method is init underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So this is the method we are calling, say, constructor. Constructor. So constructor means what it will do. This is the method, it automatically executes when the object is creating. So here I am creating the student one. So that time, this is the method will execute automatically. You don't need to call it. Previously, after you creating these three objects, you are calling intentionally. But now you don't need to call this one. By the time of creation only, this is the method will execute. Let's execute now. If I run it, you are getting output something like this: 45 Sam, 46 Ram, 47. So these are the methods. This constructor method will execute automatically by the time of creation of the objects. Okay. Once it is done, please let me know. Guys, is it done? Yeah. Now let's go for destructor. Let's go for understanding the destructor. Destructor means by the time of deleting, by the time of deleting, that specific method will execute. Underscore underscore on delete underscore underscore self. This is the method will execute automatically object deleted. Okay, an object is deleted, that time that particular del can be executed, the destructor can be executed. Del std1, so del std2. So here del is the keyword, del std3. Okay, so here we are sending some data, okay, you are deleted. See, 3 times the same method was executed. This is the method is executed. When which is executed? When you're deleting intentionally. Okay, when you deleted the object, the time this is the method automatically can invoke. Okay, so this is about destructor. So guys, this is for today's class. We'll continue the tomorrow for continuation of the object-oriented programming language concepts. Okay, that means polymorphism, inheritance, data hiding, data encapsulation. See you by tomorrow. Okay, see you. Bye.